Hello, everyone. Welcome to Project Likkutei Torah, Daf 33, Lamed Gimel of Sefer Bamidbar, Parshas Behaaloscha. We are in the middle of the mimer, V'zeh Meiser HaMenora, that started on Daf Lamed Beis. We're talking about how the menorah represents the midos of a yid and how he's able to change his midos through the idea of hakah, of the melting and hitting the gold to reshape it if any of the branches, any of the person's midos go out of shape. And the continuation of the pasuk is yaricha ad purcha, which implies that yaricha is the lowest leg of the menorah, and purcha is the most loftiest design ornamental component of the menorah. So it's the most fundamental, from the most fundamental to the most ornamental. Every aspect of the menorah is all one, made of the same gold, mikshahi, right? So it's all part of the menorah. So the yaricha and the purcha, we can see it represents different types of yidden, even the greatest and the lowest, or every type of yid in between. Can change. Now, bin gedele tzadikim nikrim pircha. The great tzadikim are called pircha, the flowers of the menorah, because their Torah and their techila is parcha le'ela. It shoots up above. It goes above through, specifically through their techila, through their awe and love of Hashem, which are the wings of the analogous bird that helps one's mitzvahs and avodas Hashem soar into the heavens. It is explained in the Zohar Kadosh that a field of yarech is still part of the menorah. Even the lowest part of the menorah, which is seemingly not so important, even that aspect of the menorah is still a fundamental part of the menorah. Without that, the whole menorah would tip over. So we see that every part of the menorah is completely united and one. Now, only that it should be zahav tahor. Specifically, it says in the pasuk that the menorah has to be made out of pure gold, without any sediments or impurities. Is written in the pasuk. After miksha achas, it says zahav tahor, because the zahav, the gold, if there is the smallest impurity from anything else, it can actually change the entire color and appearance of the gold to a greenish tint to it, which can tarnish the entire gold. So that's why it's so important that the gold remains pure, so it has that beautiful golden luster. Similarly, through the wicked are like the impurities. So when the wicked are in the gold, it can change the color. So that's why it's so important that every yid has to surmera legamre and transform themselves to serve Hashem in the purest form possible, so we can have this menorah's zav tahor. So, meaning to say, to Hamin Babaker, Chadashim Bekworihem. The pasuk in Eov, referencing pasuk in Eov, that the time in the morning is specifically every day is renewed constantly from anew, as it says in the blessing that we say every day, we say, that literally Hashem creates from absolute nothingness, the act of creation. This is also the day that was formed, just like Adam Rishon. That, quoting the pasuk in Yeshaya, when a person recognizes that he's being created every day from scratch, just like the act of creation, like Hashem creating the first man, then for sure, when a person realizes this, then for sure he will be embarrassed, so to speak, in front of the eyes of the glorious king, and therefore he won't want to be involved in vain pursuits of vanity. And also, to a certain extent, we see Ma'aseh Bereishis happening every day, meaning that at first we have Chayshech Halayla, the darkness of night, and then when morning comes, we have the act of creation from scratch, Yehi Or. The Shemesh comes out and becomes day. And that's why we say in Tehillim, B'chol Yom Avarachaka, in the Ashrei prayer, that which I see that Goylal Or, that Hashem's Goylal Or, etc. V'chayshech mipnei Or, in the nusach of the Birchas Kriya Shema at night, that today, every day, we are able to recognize the acts of creation, and therefore we're able to bless Hashem. And a person should not say that one is prevented from separating himself from evil and taivas. Hey, I can't leave my taivas on haza. That is completely sourced in the Isser. I think that I'm so sunken into my own taivas in this Isser that I can't get out of it. But that's the reason why we say in davening, Emes Mimitzrayim Ga'altenu v'Elokeinu, that in truth, Hashem redeemed us from Egypt. Mitzrayim is called Ervas Aretz, meaning that the cleaving, the dibuk, the taivas machshavtei, the idea that one's taivas and machshavas cleaving negativity, he doesn't have to be limited by this because he's actually able to leave the circumstances of his taivas al-mazen and attachment to Ra, and leave that because we left Mitzrayim, and because Hashem gives us that ability, and Hashem has the ratzon for us to make that happen. And this is what it means in the pasuk in Shaya, Nashim Mashlu Banu. And Nashim is Lashon Rabbi, women, bin beheter, bin beiser, whether permissibly or in a forbidden way. So then Akash Baruch Hu takes one out of Mitzrayim, because Me'ayin Yavai Isha Yisraeli L'vchinas Mitzrayim. What gives us the koiches to leave our personal Mitzrayim every day? Because we know that we're banim lamakim. It says in Pirkei Avos that it's our nature to do the ratzon of our Father in heaven. However, this koyach comes from Hashem Yisbarach. And the koyach to do evil also. He gave us the Yetzer Hara, as it says in Micha, Sharai Oisi, etc. Just like we had Galus Mitzrayim through Galgal to Gilgal, Kadosh Baruch Hu was Gilgal, so V'sinu Ashaviyam. But the whole feeling of being in exile today is really a progression from the exile that we experienced in Egypt. It's the Gilgal. It's a constant progression, like almost like this feeling of being in exile returns to the Jewish people. But at the same time, we also have the ability to leave Egypt. So therefore, it's written in Yirmiyah, "V'anechi netatich seirek kuloi zera emes." Even when a person falls chas v'shalom and it's succumbs to one's taivas, this is the level of shuruk. Shuruk means that's the vowel underneath Lashon HaKodesh, the vowel that has the three diagonal dots that makes the U sound, ba'akmimus, so it's a very negative vowel, that nevertheless, kulai zer emes, that one is still able to change, and you can transform that shur to segel. So where you have the 3 dots diagonal, you can transform it, which is not even, it's asymmetrical. You can transform that to segel, which is symmetrical, and therefore it's the segel, or the 3 dots kind of shaped like a triangle. That is lashon segula, which is very positive. Segula mikol ha'amim. That similarly in Mitsrayim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, "Anechi yireh mimacha Mitsrayim v'anechi alcha gam aloi." That what does this mean? Anechi, I, meaning Misha Anechi, meaning Hashem himself, will descend, etc. And then I will cause you to ascend. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu will help the Jewish people. Gam aloi, the end of the pasuk, means that this level of gam also should be, that the level of gam should also have an aliyah, an elevation. And this is what it means. Emes means gAltanu, that in truth Hashem redeemed us, because kulai zera emes, that all the Jewish people are really from true seed, and therefore we have this potential of geula within us. Therefore, Mמצרים גאלתנו והעליונים. Therefore, Hashem redeemed us, that the geula, that havaya, will be leilokenu. Right? That's the bracha that we should transform, to take the havaya and bring it into the elokenu. Specifically, based on from the we should be redeemed from the house of slavery. That we should be redeemed from our taivas, from our lusts and things that lure us into doing things that follow our pleasure, but not follow the truth of what Hashem wants from us. That's what it means, that Hashem is redeeming us from this house of taivas. And so how can we have this geula? Because through בכוריהם הרגת, through the killing of all the firstborn, because in העולם it's called peter karecha, meaning harishon. And similarly in the nefesh we have the seichel, which is reishis chachma. Meaning to say that one must kill, so to speak, the בכוריהם, in the sense that the physicality of the world, the olam of the world, which is having everything purely based and founded on intellect alone, that is problematic. So that's why it says kol בכוריהם, all their firstborns. That represents the intellect of Egypt, that each one of them wanted to lahamid ritzoni al yedei sichlei, that one should, so to speak, not allow one's will to be based on intellect, which is what the Mitsrim were doing. And that we have to haragta, we have to cause that inyan to fall, which is called misa. V'charchei Yisrael, and the continuation of the pasuk says v'charchei Yisrael, that your chosen ones, your firstborn Israel, that they are all elokus, godly, to meditate on the godly and the greatness of Ein Sof Baruch Hu, and specifically during davening, which is called mita in Zohar Kodesh. I guess it's called the bed. That in davening we have different levels. There's the mita, the kisei, the chair, the throne, so to speak, the mנורה, and the shulchan, and the table, as it says in Zohar. Redifasei zahav. Then when it says ga'alta, ga'alta, that you redeemed the firstborn amongst your Jewish people, that Alter was explaining, this means that it should not be that we shouldn't allow anything from getting away in our way of serving Hashem, which allows us to be still sunken into Gullus. However, rather, we should have the Geula and the freedom from any shibud parnasa, anything that's holding back financially, that's allowing, or that makes it, or that's preventing us from davening properly. Because without tefillah, without davening properly, it's impossible to turn away from evil. Therefore, in the davening, it's established that every day we say before davening, we say viduyim. Say viduyim. That one should be misbainen on the shiflus of man that we're in Mitsrayim, shehu b'Mitzrayim, that we're on such a low level, that we have so much higher levels to reach. Then we should be misbainen in the greatness of Ein Sof Baruch Hu, and we should for sure remove ourselves from any evil, and I guess regret the fact that that there is evil, and that we're sung on such a low level, but we can arise from it, and we can experience this geula. And the tefillah, in the tefillah, it will be this vidui dvarim, this confession of words. Then we'll have this menoira achas zav tar, when we properly confess to Hashem and reconnect and experience this geula. Then we will have this pure singular menorah that's completely made out of one piece of gold, that all Jews, the yaricha and the purcha, will be one menorah. However, the main thing is that this achdus, they have to have achdus with each other, with our fellow Jews, that we shouldn't see any negativity in our fellow Jew, etc. Meaning to say that one should know that Lamaila, the menorah, is all hammered out from Lamaila, that the Elyon descends down here, the Lamata, and the Tachton ascends Lamaila, that the Ra, the evil, descends sometimes Lamata and enters a person that's into a wicked person, and the opposite, that through doing a mitzvah, a person that was considered wicked, if he does a mitzvah, if a person that's wicked does a mitzvah, then lefamim, sometimes he can actually ascend above. And every person needs to be aware of this and recognize this chisaron that we have, and this potential that we have to ascend, and the good that is in every person, that perhaps after a person ascends above, and the wickedness of others, that perhaps that he will descend below, and then there'll be the true echad, this oneness, that's meaning the yarech with the prachim, like we were saying earlier, how any piece of gold, even the highest piece of gold, the most fanciest, loftiest piece of gold from the menorah, can be re-hammered and restructured, so that way it becomes part of the bottom of the menorah. And similarly, the bottom piece of the menorah can be re-hammered and structured in a way that it becomes part of the top of the menorah, without breaking apart the piece of gold. Similarly, here in Avodas Hashem, you have to recognize how fragile, I guess, that we are in wherever we're holding in our Avodas Hashem, that we always have constant room for improvement, but also the opposite, Chas v'shalom. So we have to really work hard and constantly be to strengthen oneself, to have this level of yarich and to strengthen our fellow man, which is on the level of perach. And then Arnakayan will be, once the menorah is of pure gold and everything is in its proper place and we are serving Hashem properly, then Arnakayan will be able to light the fire of the menorah for all 7 neiros, all 7 candles, which is the Kohen Gadol. And this is Rav Chesed, that each of the Chasadim will be able to mamshech from Avarabba to Avaselam, and then Mamela will have this Teichei Ratzif Ava, this Galus Liba Krish Peish, etc. And this is what I mean about Behaaloscha Saneres, that Aaron will elevate the Jewish people through the lighting of the menorah, through this Ava towards Hashem. And that is the end of the mimer. Now moving on to the next mimer on Lamed Gimel, Amud Beis. Next mimer begins with Diber Maschil im es kod gehayam chule. Just to get the context, Moshe Rabbeinu is Kivyachol complaining that it's impossible to feed all these 600,000 men all the meat. There's no way. How am I going to be able to make it happen? And then he says, or even get the fish that I need from the sea. Now the very simple question is why is Moshe Rabbeinu mentioning fish when the Yidden didn't ask for fish? They asked for meat. So the inyan is that Moshe said mainly basar, where is meat, meaning to say that Moshe Rabbeinu is on a very lofty spiritual level, to such an extent that it was impossible to descend below to receive the chayas from basar, because basar is such a low level that Moshe Rabbeinu is not able to sink himself so low to the level of basar, so to speak. And therefore, but on the opposite side of the spectrum, an Amaretz is usher to eat meat because he's on too low of a level. He's not able, that the basar sinks him further down spiritually and is not able to be elevated through the basar. But only a Talmid Chacham is able to elevate the basar by eating it. However, Legabe, with regards to the Madrig of Moshe, that he was on such a high level that even this aliyah, even the aliyah that he would have received by eating the basar, was considered a yurida. This is what it means. Sheshmeis elef ragli ha'am asher anuichi b'kir boi. That you said that I will give she'ata v'ata marta basar ten lahem, etc. Meaning to say that after anuichi, meaning Moshe Rabbeinu, who's referring to himself as anuichi, that I Moshe Rabbeinu, on this such a lofty level, how can I, the fact that I'm amongst you, the Jewish people, Beker va'am, how can you say that basar tinlahem, that I can get them basar? And this is what it means that Hatzainu Bakri Shachid Lahem Umatza Lahem. Hatzainu Bakri Shachid Lahem Umatza Lahem. Meaning, how can I, Moshe's lamenting, how can I shecht all the meat for all these people and find the meat? So it seems the Umatza Lahem is superfluous. So the explanation of the added words Umatza Lahem is that the tzayin in bakar, tzayin v'yasigim birdei fachrim sheikh mato, that the sheep and cattle that they found that they're able to use to draw down below and to cause the lofty level of Moshe to come down. And with regards to this, it says, Im es cold gay hayam. So that's why Moshe continues and not only just doesn't stop at mentioning the animals, but even mentions the fish. It's called gay hayam, fish of the sea, because kol mashiach b'yabash b'yam. Everything that is in the dry land, there's also in the sea, and the basar that is in the sea is dagim. Rather, meaning to say that fish are really, the expression "chicken of the sea." They're really fish are animals. They're meat of the sea. They're meat. There's just as much meat as meat on land animals, of mammals, but rather the only difference is that the sea acts to conceal that which is underneath the sea. So it represents the idea of alma diskasia, the concealed worlds. So fish are essentially just animals from the concealed worlds, as opposed to animals like cattle and sheep. They're from the revealed worlds, because yabasha is not concealed by the water. And this great yerida descent from this level of the revealed world to eat the meat of animals that walk on dry land, and to elevate them, and the Vada not to fall lower begashmis as a result of that. The solution is that through the yerida, in order to accomplish this, to accomplish all the spiritual benefits of eating meat without it causing negative effects, is by first having fish, because fish is from alma diskasi, the concealed world, and therefore through them one is able to afterwards descend further down. Therefore, the minhag Yisrael is to eat fish before meat, because the fish spiritually helps prepare the person that's eating the fish to make them ready to be able to elevate the basar. However, with regards to the level of Moshe, even the fish wouldn't have helped. That's kind of what Moshe is saying here. Meaning that even the fish they're also on this level that the fish should draw down this lofty level of Moshe. So it seems like even it'd be hard for the fish to help cause this hamshacha. However, okay, so now we're gonna just move past the parentheses. The ma'anim are welcome to learn it. After the parentheses, however, Kadosh Baruch Hu Higiz Slav. So Kadosh Baruch Hu gave them this animal called the Slav, this very fatty bird, which is actually, so birds are interesting because they are technically land animals, but they fly in the air. So they're more spiritual, they're loftier spiritually than behemoths, than regular animals that walk on the earth. Because they actually come from the level of Pnei Shor, and the Chais and Merkava and Ifis come from the Kruvim. And also, they're very fat. These the Slav are very fat. They have a lot of fat in them, as we spoke about in the Gemara. That there's even like you can bake this Slav, this very fatty bird, with several loaves of bread underneath it, and to such an extent that even the bottommost bread will still be completely drenched in fat that won't even be able to be edible with other foods. So therefore you have this mila of the Slav, which we spoke about in the previous mimer, this unity of the fattiness, which represents chesed, with the flesh, the basar aspect, which represents gvura. So you have this fusion of chesed and gvura that's unique to the Slav. Okay, very beautiful short mimer. Now we're going to move right on to the next mimer, Ra'isi v'hine miner zav on Lamed Gimel Lamed Beis. Ra'isi men v'hine miner zav kula v'gula l'risha v'shiva nirsa leha in Parshas Behaaloscha. Now, nerais, these candles, these lights of the menorah are also called neshamais, as it's written in Mishlei, Ner Havai Nishmas Adam, the candle of Hashem is the soul of man. And the whole idea of the menorah having 7 candles, this represents the 7 shepherds, which mashpim, which draw down and give a godliness to the entire Jewish people. And we know that no thought can grasp Hashem at all, but through these 7 shepherds, so to speak, they are able to give us a taste, so to speak, of Hashem's emotive attributes. And so the whole Jewish people are essentially collectively one menorah. We all make up one menorah, and every aspect of the menorah represents an aspect of the Jewish people. And the most important thing to remember is that we are all gold. The whole Jewish people are all gold. It says in the pasuk in Shir Shirim, Kulach Yafa Rayasi, that all Jewish people are wonderful, beautiful. Now, we know that in another place, it says in the Midrash that refers this union of the menorah is connected to Lasid Lavo. How do we know that? Because in the העליונים there's the psilis. However, Lasid Lavo, Zachariah says, Menar Zav Kula. Meaning that Lasid Lavo, the menorah, will dafka be gold, entirely of gold, without any psilis. Even though halachically it could be made of any material, and halachically the menorah, theoretically having psilis and the zav wouldn't disqualify it. But in another place, it says that because Yirmiyah says that kesef nimas karlahem, that is despite the silver is despising, and Yechezkel called them sigim, these psilas that ben adam hayuli basis shal sig, etc. Then Zachariah came along and said, Ra'isi v'hine miner zav kula. Behold, I saw a menorah that's entirely made of gold. That the gold, that is the whole idea of the gold is to fulfill what it says in the verse in Shir Shirim, Kulach Yafai Rayasi. From here it's understood, it's implied. They were referring to Zman Achshav, that the menorah actually alludes to the time we're in currently. That for sure Yirmiyah and Yechezkel did not only intended for the current time we're in, and not La'asid Lavo. If that's the case, then Zachariah comes and said, that's entirely made out of gold. And therefore, we must understand that in truth, why does Yirmiyah and Yechezkel say this? And Zachariah said, Menar Zav Kula, that's entirely a menorah that's made entirely out of gold. Meaning that it's kulach yafa, it's entirely beautiful. We can preface this by understanding the Indian, that which is that the reason why the Jewish people are called a menorah, because just like a menorah is all hammered out of one piece of gold or one chunk of material, that through this chiseling and hammering of this material of gold, we're able to, or makishim, hitting it and making that which is lamayla lamata and lamata lamayla, meaning to say that the piece of gold that was previously in the lowest part of the menorah could end up, through maneuvering the metal properly, could end up being at the very top of the menorah. And just depending on how you hammer and mold and work with the material. And so too, all Jewish people, we're all interdependent on one another, meaning to say that we're mixed up together, meaning to say that just like we're called like Jewish people are called Adam, meaning we are all make up one human metaphorical body. That just like Adam, man, has a head and a foot, so to the Jewish people, there's head of the Jewish people and there's feet of the Jewish people. But we know that the head receives life force and energy also from the foot or the leg, and vice versa. So, meaning, but in the sense that the head receives life force from the foot, it means that the head is dependent on the foot to get it to where it needs to go, and so too the foot is dependent on the head. So too the Jewish people are all interdependent on each other, just like each body part of man is dependent on each other. And this is what it means, that is all battered out of every single detail was hammered out of one piece, even the base and even the flower ornaments of the menorah. The yericha, this is the lower madrigas, and purcha is the higher levels. It's all mikshach, it's all hammered out of one piece, and they all receive from the 7 neresal yonis, and they are the 7 rayim, the 7 shepherds, as we spoke about earlier, that each one according to its level and according to its measure. Now, moving on to ice base. Now, we know that the mitzvahs are also called neres, just like the Jewish people are called neres. The mitzvahs are called neres as well, as it is written in the pasuk in Mishlei, ki ner mitzvah v'tehar. For a candle, mitzvah is a candle, and the Torah is light, and also the 248 mitzvahs, positive mitzvahs, that they are the 248 limbs of the king, with the 2 drain, which is Kamashir and Ner. His 2 limbs make the Kamashir of Ner, which would be 250. So, I see. So basically 248 plus 2 makes the 250. Presumably the trained brain would be Avanira. So the inyan is that the Torah is called Ner. What's a Ner? A Ner is a kli that has within it oil and a wick. That just like it's written, that also the oil and the wick themselves are called Ner, as it is written in the pasuk, meaning the preparation of the oil and the psila is all part of the Ner. And meaning to say that the neshamas Yisrael are called kli haner, which is the base kibble, is the receptacle to receive the oil and the wick. And so too, the neshamas of the Jewish people are the vessel to receive the mitzvahs, which would be the oil and the fuel for it, and the wicks, which are called ner mitzvah. However, the Torah is light, Torah oir, that the light does not ascend, the name or, it only descends the name or through the fact that the light is able to hold on to the wick as it is submerged in the oil. And because this abundant amount of oil and wick is present, therefore, that is how it makes it possible for the light to be illuminated. So if the pesila is mina muvchar, meaning the wick is very high quality, then you'll have a very nice, beautiful, large flame. And similarly, if you have a lot of oil, then the light will last a very long time. So similarly, if you have a large ribu psilois, if you have many wicks, then you'll have much an abundance of light. And the main revelation of light is that through the oil and the wick, so too the Torah is an explanation of the mitzvahs in this analogy analog idea here. Now, similarly, by way of analogy, at the mitzvah of Shabbos, the mitzvah of Shabbos, how do we learn about the mitzvah of Shabbos? We learn it through the Masechus Shabbos in the Gemara. The mitzvah of Pesach, mitzvahs of relating to Pesach, we have Masechus Pesachim. So too, by way of analogy, the entire Torah is light and revelation of the mitzvah, which is the kli of the ner, and it's just the Torah is revealing how to do the mitzvahs through the Gemaras and the halachas, etc. Now, just like in Gashmias, we have this concept, so too Baruchnias, because the mitzvahs is the Ratzon Elyon Baruch Hu, it's Hashem's will, which is included in Oineg HaElyon. It's included in supernal pleasure of Hashem, just like as it is written, Reach Nichoyach Lavaya. It's a pleasing fragrance to Hashem. And our sages say that Nachas Ruach Lafanei Shamarti B'nai Surtzeni. That we have this very deep relationship and connectedness between Tainug and Ratzon. That Tainug is drawn down according to the Ratzon that a person wants. If a person is something goes in line with the person's Ratzon, then the Tainug is drawn down. However, the opposite can also happen. If something goes against a person's Ratzon, then the opposite of Tainug happens, it's tsar, pain. And so therefore, essentially we have a slapshus of Tainug within the Ratzon. And therefore, every person needs to do mitzvahs besimcha, as it says in the pasuk, Tachas Esher Le'avaditas Avaylakecha besimcha v'tuleivav miriv kol. Because what is simcha? Simcha reveals Tainug, and the oinig that comes, it reveals the Tainug and the oinig that comes through that gilui. And then when that gilui is accomplished, then we can feel that true simcha completely revealed in one's heart. And the more, it's almost like a chain snowball effect, chain reaction, that the more gilui of Tainug you have, the more simcha, and they keep building on each other. That more simcha, more Tainug, more Tainug, more simcha. And therefore, and the explanations of Meirev Koil in the pasuk, why is it that specifically Hashem saying that you didn't serve Hashem, saying that we didn't serve Hashem with simcha when you had everything? What does that mean? That it means you can't say that Merav Kol is only referring to Tainug Olam Hazeh, that you didn't serve Hashem with simcha when you were involved in all of the physical lusts of the world, because that's obvious. So it means that all of the Tainug Olam Hazeh because all the tainug of Olam Hazeh is just a psoilus from that which falls in Shiras HaKelim. So from a more sophisticated way of understanding the pasuk, Mirav Koil, it would be too obvious to say that, it's just talking about, when you were going after all these tainug malazeh, because it's not, there's no actual substance to tainug malazeh. Just like it says in the story, in the Gemara, sages say that Rabbi Akiva, there were 120 mil from the great city of Rome, and they heard all these noises coming from there, and all this joy and ruckus from all the Romans, and Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Yeshua were crying, and Rabbi Akiva was laughing, because he said, Rabbi Akiva made the rationale that if those that transgress Hashem's will are experiencing this much tainug Olam Hazeh, then how much more tainug and simcha will those that do Hashem's will receive? So that if this is the case, that the tainug is nimshach even to those that go against Hashem's will, like our sages say, that there's no blade of grass down here that doesn't have a mazel from above. The mazel receives from the 70 ministers, so to speak, that they receive from the Shmari Fanim, which are these very lofty angels, the dregs of these very lofty angels, which is really just psoilus. It's just residue. It's just not the best. The leftovers, so to speak, from these lofty angels. And from this, that's where all the tainug Olam Hazeh comes from. So really, all the pleasure that results in this world is really the excrement of angels, so for lack of a better word. So therefore, it's really not the true simcha. True simcha is when you do Hashem's will and you do the Torah mitzvahs. That's when you get true simcha in Hashem. Because there's no comparison to the pnimis achayas, which is the actual ray of the Shechina that's revealed in Gan Eden, that the tzaddikim benefit from. They sin benefit from the ziva Shechina. And it's they say that because that it's worth it to be judged and brought, and then through being judged, being brought into the world to come, because all the suffering one experiences in Gehenna, it's completely worth it, because one receives after all the suffering in Gehenna this einige this supernal tainug, which is nimshach from the ziva Shechina. Therefore, so just say, etc., that those that transgress Hashem's will, if they receive pleasure, how much more so that those that do Hashem's will, that the people that transgress Hashem's will, the tainug that they receive in this world is a great amount of tainug, but it's all from dregs and psoilus. That much more so will be if for those that do Hashem's will, that they'll get the revelation of einige elyon from the ziva Shechina last level. Now, behold, how great is the simcha and tainug that's revealed from the ziva Shechina, even Gan Eden and Tachton. Such an extent, they says that it's worth it to be judged in Gehenna in order to get to Olam Haba, or to go to the world to come. So how much more in Gan Elyon? So if that's the case, by Gan Tachton, that's worth being judged, how much more so in Gan Elyon, which is even higher than Gan Tachton, to such an extent that one needs, in order to merit to enter Gan Elyon, one needs to toivel oneself in the Nahar Dinur. And there are many medregas in Gan Eden, that's infinite levels of medregas of Gan Eden. And all of them has this level of Nar Dinur, this river called Dinur, between each level in order to ascend all these levels within Gan and Elyon. Now, this is what our sages say, that Talmidei Chachamim in lehem menucha lo ba'am azav lo ba'am habo, that Torah scholars, they don't have any rest in this world or the next world. Why? Because we have a pasuk in Tehillim that says Yelchu Michayil El Choyil. So this means that Kedoshim Chalim Chasala. Now this explains what in the pasuk was in davening we say Kedoshim in Shemon Esrei Kedoshim B'chol Yom Yel Chasala. What does it mean that you are Kadosh? Your name is Kadosh, and the Kedoshim. What are the Kedoshim? These are the neshamas that have this aliyah sala forever, meaning the neshamas that are already on their path through their elevations through all these levels of Gan Eden, that have this completely infinite levels of aliyahs, that they're receiving all these higher and higher levels of oineg ad infinitum. And therefore, as I just say, in the future, Kadosh Baruch Hu will bequeath upon every tzaddik 310 worlds, as it says, L'hanichel oyeva yesh. Yesh is gematria shin yod, which is 310. Then in order to receive this tainug that is infinite, that the neshama doesn't even have the koyach to be able to perceive, because we're on this physical level of yesh and nivra, we're physical creations. So how do we receive this infinite tainug? That's so this is accomplished through the neshama. In order to receive all this tainug, there has to be 310 worlds, meaning to say helem, that you need the concealment in order for the neshama within the guf, which is limited, to tolerate all this tainug adin kates. Now we're going to skip the parentheses. Very fascinating, but we are running short on time. So we are finishing now Eis Beis of the Mimer. And tomorrow's daf 34, we're going to move on to Eis Gimel and finish the Mimer. Hope you have a wonderful night. Take care.